All right, let's call the meeting to order. Please rise, salute the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the Infrastructure Oversight Committee. Today's Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. Membership we already went over. Tonight's members not present are Christopher Thatcher.
Yeah, I just want to mention something when it comes to members, is that our term all expires on June 30th. So if we want to re-enlist, or re-up, as we said in the Army, you should put your notice in with the Board of Selectmen.
Well, we'll discuss that in the future.
Yeah, well, if we
Whether
continue as infrastructure, or
Future.
economic development.
Yeah, we'll discuss it as a group. Okay, approval of the meeting minutes. We had a chance to review them. I know Murray attached them to the agenda.
I sent out a couple this morning. I've been sending them out for the last week or so. So the meeting of February 21st. This was our presentation we had from Roger on the betterment policy. And it went on. Oh boy, we had a lot of public comments. Yeah, it went on and on.
Okay.
Anyhow, I move these minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jerry. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Oh, aye. Against? All right. Got another one ready to run?
Number 2 is March 13th. This was the meeting we had at the Macklemore School,
Yeah.
and Roger made a presentation, and then we had a lot of comments from various people, and that was pretty much it.
He's gonna move that
So
one.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Seconded by Joe Emerald. Discussion
Okay.
on this one? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Okay,
Against? Abstentions?
Okay, the third minutes are for the meeting of April 3rd, which was here in this room. And again, Roger gave an update on the Route 6 water and sewer project. And we had quite a few comments, especially from Rui, who really was concerned about, what he was hearing in the north end. So anyhow,
All right.
I'll move it.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Joe Emerald. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Okay.
That one too.
And then the fourth one is April 17th, and it was a meeting, back here at our select room. We did not have a presentation from Roger, but we did talk about the results from the town ballot, which, as we all know, were negative. But we did have the town meeting coming up, so we discussed the town warrant articles, which were 3. And we discussed our negative vote from the FinCom, and our intention, I think, of going back on April 30th. So I move the minutes of April 17th.
Was there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jerry. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Unanimous? Unanimous.
So I know on the agenda it says also minutes of the 30th of April and the 7th of May. So the 30th of April was a presentation before FinCom. It'll be fairly easy to do. And it only involved, I think 4 of us. And then May 7th was our town meeting. I posted it just in case we ever made any decisions before the meeting. But at our table, we never had more than 4 members, i.e. we never had a quorum. And so we did not have a meeting, but I've got to write a little memo to that effect, I guess, at some point. But we do have these 4 meeting minutes, February 21st, March 13th, April 3rd, and April 17th.
Very good.
Done.
Thank you for all your work. Appreciate it. In the upcoming meeting, we'll see what goes on. Yeah, it is a lot of work. Appreciate it. Review of the ballot box and town meeting, the feeds, water and sewer, discussion of why, more taxation, fear of development. All right, Maury, did you want to lead that?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I went over the ballot box in one of these minutes, and, we do know that the ballot box, we lost all 5 precincts. And we did better in the south end than the north end, but we still got defeated. We don't, of course, know the actual results of who voted at the town meeting. But at the town meeting, 569 people showed up. And I'm used to, about 300 on the first day. The 3 North End precincts had 258 attendees for 45%, and the South End, B&E, had 311 attendees for 55%. So that, it's usually equal. The 3 North Ends and the 2 South Ends are usually about 50-50. But the South End really dominated, 55 to 45%, this town meeting. So,
And I think the people who spoke at town meeting
were South End.
Very few from North End.
So, in the end, it was the South End that defeated this thing. And I would assume everybody thinks the South End has a lot of Watershed Alliance members and they're all environmentalists and want to clean up the river, but that's not true. So, some of them are, but not. But I just thought those numbers were pretty interesting.
Yeah, to give you something to work on. But
Well,
I'd like to mention something.
Well, if you want, go up to the mic so people at home can hear you, please.
so,
Don't forget to identify yourself, Ron.
discussion of why, we got defeated at the ballot box and why we got defeated so horribly at town meeting. Because I was sitting in the front row and I looked around and I saw, a bunch of hands in favor, but then, a lot of hands against. And the ballot box was 62% against and 38% in favor. And my seat of the pants estimate is that town meeting was about the same.
Gotcha. Rob Machado.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Manny, you want to say something?
I just have a question for Marty. So,
Yeah.
so this defeat at town meeting, could you explain to me exactly what it was? I mean, what was defeated?
3 things were defeated. Borrowing $7 million was defeated. The betterment was defeated. And then the commissioners and
Enterprise Fund.
Enterprise
Enterprise.
Fund were defeated. So 3 things were defeated.
So that, you're telling me that defeats the North Westport Sewer and Water Project that we designed?
No. Well, as we're going to talk about continuing project number 1 and number 2, read the
What is
agenda.
project number 1 and number 2?
I said item number 1 and number 2 under new business. It's like we have 2
I think that's
continuing
just
projects.
causing more confusion, because I thought this project was phase 1, sewer and water Westport, trunk line sewer, all the way down Route 6.
Follow the money, Manny. We have money for a water line extension.
Okay, and what was that, how did that water line come to play? I'm looking at, and I don't want to skew off here right now at this point.
Well, wait till the agenda. I just wanted to go over a couple of old business things about.
Well, it's just,
discussion.
I'm hearing from the people that the project was defeated.
Well, let's hear
Project
from
wasn't
Rob.
defeated.
Let's hear from Rob.
Okay.
Borrowing money and taxation was defeated.
Yeah, well, speaking to a couple other people in a couple of different towns, statistically, exactly what you said is just about correct. I don't think anybody down the south is really gonna pay for sewer up the north. What if for whatever reason, I believe it's probably financially. But I can say this though, in other towns, what they do is they take it on by district or by street. And so when we had really looked into, like when most of the people in this room, they were all Route 6 people, they were the people that really wanted it, right? And of course, environmentally, it was a good thing. And of course, the trunk line is engineered. So when you're looking for support, you're definitely gonna find it along the Route 6 strip. And so I think, I understand things work financially, I understand that. But I think if we're looking for support, we should take it on road by road, just like other towns have done it. In other words, if the trunk line is already there, if it wants to run off a side street, let those people on the side street decide if they want it. But they couldn't get it unless the trunk line's there. And so if we back it up and we look at Route 6, you have almost 98% support on Route 6. And when the project went down to town meeting, I already knew we weren't gonna get $10 off of anybody that isn't along the run of it. And so, everybody here has put time into the project, and most of the people that were all in the room were in favor of it. The other people I spoke to in town, some of them were worried about development, this, that, but what they should know is under the development, most companies have a 10-point criteria, meaning that, let's say you wanted to call McDonald's, for instance, and said, hey, I got a spot for you over there on Route 6 in Westport, McDonald's would look at it and say, okay, listen, it would have to meet a 10-point criteria. And one of the major things is they like to be near a mall. They're looking for 100,000 residents. So we're really not gonna get that on Route 6. It doesn't have that type of criteria. This is an environmental thing, it's a betterment thing, and it's a better off thing. I mean, only 18% of the households in the United States even have septic systems. And of course, everybody sitting here tonight has time into this project. And so I say, if we're looking for support, maybe we could break it down road by road, just like other communities have. In other words, okay, yeah, let's do a vote right down Route 6 at trunk line. Let's find out who wants it down there. And I think we're gonna find out, we're probably gonna hit a 95% approval rate. And at that point there, I know it goes back to financing, I understand that. And Bobby, you know, I seen you get a little emotional about the $960,000, and I don't blame you, it was money earned. Terrific job, Jimmy, getting monies and the rest of you for running water down the areas that really need it. So everybody here has done their job. There's no reason to come out of this a loser in any way. Just the water, like you said, is a major thing. Looking back, Bobby, at the Build Back Better money I'm always talking about, Jimmy was partly right, I didn't understand it. Yes, 17, 18% of that money is now spent, but how much of it is really allocated? And so that number's a lot higher than the percentage rate I just had said to you. So it looks like it could be a yes, it could be a no, but I don't think there's any harm in getting, we're in June now, right? In other words, most of Westport is gonna love sewer if they don't have to pay for it. That's what we found out.
Yeah.
The project can't be stopped. I mean, Westport has a future just like any other town does. So I think there's no harm in putting in the application for the money. The only thing they can do is deny you. In the end, like I said, everybody has time and skin into this project. And even if you get, so anyway, getting back to the $960,000, there's no reason to have to hand that money back. We can secure the 4 pump stations with that. And later on, when we get the green light, we got the green light. We can't go forward until we have the money to go forward. That is only honesty. We did a new zone change where we took away some unrestricted property. We turned that into housing, right? There's a big demand for housing. A lot of people are interested in housing, right? So our goal basically is to get the sewer down a trunk line so it gives everybody something to work with. If you're looking for support, we go right to the people on Route 6. We're gonna get all the support there is. And thank you.
Thanks.
Just one point of clarification. I did talk to Representative Keating's office several weeks back, and they said that 960,000 will not come by the end of the fiscal 24, which is federally September, but probably next springtime, and that it's good for 5 years. That's what he told me. I hope that's right. So we'll find a place for it, that's for sure.
So, Morris, so can you explain to me what that means? It's good for 5 years. So how do other towns, so that 900,000, so how do towns build their sewer? Do they not use the DEP state revolving fund like the bid went out at?
Most of them do.
Okay. So we need a town vote to use the DEP state revolving fund to build this sewer?
We have 7.5 million authorized for this current fiscal year, and we have just rejected their offer because we did not approve the borrowing. You know all this, man.
Well, no, I'm asking that, so, because I had that same question on the water part of this project, on why the water's going through without a town vote. So why is the water going through without a town
Big
vote?
difference.
Because we have a grant.
You need town to authorize borrowing, you don't need town to accept the grant, as far as I know.
Okay, so how many
Steve,
grants,
you help me here.
how many grants have we asked for on the sewer?
Huh?
How many grants have we asked for on the sewer?
Got rejected by
Well,
law.
the Mass Works grant applications were partially for sewer, and they got rejected because we didn't have a strong partner. We didn't have a partner,
Anchor.
actually. And last year, we did apply both for Senate and House earmarks, and we were rejected by the Senate, but we were accepted by the House. But senators have more money than representatives, you know, there's 435, there's not.
So, and
not 100.
what is expected next year?
So we
On
have
contract
applied
two?
for $5 million of a senatorial earmark. And we've been told by Markey's office, we're going through Markey, he seems to be more sympathetic to infrastructure projects. We're going through Marky's office, and the guideline there is the earmarks are 2 to 5 million. So we went for the upper end of the range, 5 million. And if we were to get that 5 million plus Keating's 1 million, we'd have 6 million. And, you know, there's always a little bit of ARPA money here and there, and we could actually build section 1.
And then what do you do the following year? Do you apply for another grant? Do you not keep
Probably,
doing this?
yeah.
If you have a phase 1 sewer and
Keep
water for
going.
Westport, you
Keep
keep
going
applying
back.
for grants, right?
You know, as far as free money goes, occasionally you have a PFAS grant, which is, you know, another thing. It's a special thing. It's an EPA special chemical of the year or something.
So
But then we can, you know, we can get those opportunistically.
sewer has
We
nothing
can
to
keep
do with
going back
PFAS?
to our federal representatives for earmarks and keep trying. By the way, earmarks did not exist for 10 years. And they were brought back, was it late Obama or was it early Trump? I don't know. But they can disappear too. If we have a Republican Congress, they're gonna cut the budget, and we're not, this might be the last year for the next 10 years for earmarks, I don't know.
So
They
we
come and go, man.
we applied for a PFAS grant for the water main on Macumber Loop. And the reason we applied for that was because of the public well supplies, right?
For the public water supplies, yeah.
So did we apply for a PFAS grant prior to doing that for the sewer and water down Route 6?
As far as, no,
So why didn't we do
there's the
that?
gentleman who actually does.
I'm not aware of any PFAS grants that were available for sewer.
It's a water thing.
It's not, okay, I sent all the information on the PFAS grants last year when they first came out, and it's titled sewer and water. Okay, so it is sewer and water for PFAS. So we have never applied, we accept money for the water main from the drinking water, from the public water supply, but you don't tell them that you have a designed sewer and water project down Route 6. So I don't really know how we're gonna move forward with saying that this water is just for water down Route 6 and just ignore the sewer project. Because the sewer project, what's gonna happen is the DEP, we're gonna get fined.
Andy,
for
would you
not
rather
moving
build
forward.
nothing?
No, I'm not.
We've
What
got
I'm
the
saying is,
money
I don't
for-
know how we're
we've
gonna
got
do,
the
how we're
money
gonna
for the
use this
water
water
extension.
in our sewer and water project and not call it, saying that it's phase 1 sewer and water in Westport, and go out for a new bid and new design. I don't understand that. Why are we going to
Right
throw
now, the
that
people
at
said no to it,
expense?
it's very
Jim,
simple, they said
Jim.
no.
The voters said no to borrowing money?
Absolutely, they said borrow it and they didn't want it. People at the meetings told you right to your face, they don't want it on Route 6. The businesses, yes, all day long, residents don't want it.
Okay, because
They told you.
they don't want to pay for it for the businesses. So the businesses are going
They
to have to
don't
pay a
want it.
connection
They
fee.
do not want the connection in their house.
Okay, so they don't
They
want
do
the
not
connection.
want
Okay.
to, they want to be
They don't want to
separate
pay
and
for the
independent.
connection.
Okay, guys, come on, I love you
It's
both.
just very simple. No, we're just
It's not,
discussing it.
it's not simple.
It's
a
extremely
little
simple. They
complicated.
told you to your face they didn't want it. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Continuing project, the water line extension. Now, Macumber Loop funded by $4 million. Do you want to update us on that, Jim?
I think Roger,
Oh,
I'm gonna pass on to Roger. I'm gonna punt.
Okay, so the update for today just really focuses on the water. So as you stated, the towns received a $4 million grant, and recently we were always somewhat cautious, but the contract's been signed, so it's formal. $4 million is there. It's administered through the EPA and through collaboration through the Mass DEP. In terms of what that'll represent for work, and we'll talk about what additional funding is going to be required, but for the, I should say, it says Gifford Road, so Gifford Road section, it's approximately 2,850 feet of 8-inch pipeline. The Osborne down Greenwood Ave section is another 3,200 feet of 8-inch pipeline. The Route 6 section 1, we're calling it, this section begins at the existing 12-inch main and extends past Osborne to Washington Street, totaling an additional 3,585 feet. And the water, irrespective, it's going to come, whether it's up Osborne and Gifford or just Osborne, we'll talk about that in a second. It's going to be brought to the Macumber School to within the 10 feet of the building itself. So the bidding for the project is going to be similar to what we discussed on the sewer project. We're going to have a base bid and a bid alternate A for Gifford Road. And just to remind folks, the reason why we do that is we want to provide the town with options if the bids come in higher than what we want, then we can just use the base bid, which would mean extending the water down Route 6 and up Osborne, again, still serving Macomb School. If the bids come in the way we hope they'll come in, then we'll be able to include Gifford Road as well. So again, it's just a sort of a belt and suspenders when bidding the project. The next section, we talk about what we're looking at in terms of estimate. So the base bid, as I just mentioned, represents about $3.8 million worth of work, all inclusive. The bid alternate A, the Gifford section, represents an additional $1.33 million for a grand total of the base bid plus the alternate of $5,172,000. So we tentatively identified some of the funding sources. Obviously the PFAS grant, that's $4 million. There's the Bristol County ARPA money, that's $650,000, and dovetails nice into the project because the commitment for that funding has to take place before the end of the year. Commitment means something under contract. And then there was discussion about allocating additional $350,000 of Chapter 90 funds. Chapter 90 funds, for those who are listening, are funds that are used to build roads. So the objective would be potentially to take that money post installation of the water main in the town layout and possibly install an overlay on the roads for Gifford and Osborne. And then we're looking at allocating $172,000 of the remaining $300,000 Senator Roderick's earmark. So again, $300,000, we can take $172,000 from that. And those four funding sources would pay for the base bid and bid alternate A. The next section represents the balance of what would be left. So we would still have the $128,000 in the Senator Roderick's earmark left over, plus we've got the CDS funds totaling let's round that off to $960,000 as we've been discussing. Now that particular $960,000 may require a 20% match. So if we've got some of these other grants, and if there's the ability to tie into those grants, that could represent the match, but we're still doing a little homework to see what that needs to be able to satisfy that potential requirement. So in any case, just between the earmark.
So Roger, if we, if the bids come in at the 5.1 million that Kleinfelder's estimating now for this Macklemore Loop, and we have the funds, we don't have to use the Keating funds. And if we applied the Keating funds, and continuing project number 2 is the phase 1 of the sewer project, we could apply it to that.
Correct.
And we could possibly, because that phase 1 sewer project, that 142 out of the 150 EDUs were commercial.
Yeah.
It is essentially a commercial economic development project. We could get maybe a commercial betterment, since we don't have any, except for a few residential properties on there, and we don't get the residential properties.
I have a question for that.
Is that possible? Is
How
that
do you
possible?
calculate this better? And at what time do you calculate it?
It wouldn't just in terms of the betterment overall from a schedule standpoint, it wouldn't work, because the idea is to go out to bid right at the end of the summer, September. Let's say we have a contract in hand, so we'd have to go into next town meeting. The same would be said for the CDS grant of funds. If the $960,000 doesn't become available until next spring,
No.
then, that's what you
You
just
just
talked
said
about.
it'll be available.
Yeah.
Next spring, yes, that's what I heard.
That money kicks in, the grant was awarded for the next fiscal year, federal fiscal year. So it's the October 1st is when the money becomes available.
So if that's the case, then the bids go out and let's say we have a contract in hand in September, the betterment portion of it just wouldn't work for, because that needs to go back to town meeting. So,
Well, this,
my
no, I'm thinking
understanding-
not for the water line extension,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
thinking
the-
for
no, the
phase
betterment-
one of the sewer.
There's no betterment for water.
Right.
There's no betterment.
No, there is no
betterment
betterment
plan for this water.
No,
project.
no.
And why is that? Because it's being paid for all by grant money.
Yes.
So there's no betterment, there will be no
Yes.
charge.
Yes.
However, commercially, on our enterprise fund, we can charge a connection fee for that.
Yeah, we don't have an enterprise.
So you don't have to
yeah.
have
Oh,
a betterment, you can work out a connection fee, and that would be.
There will be, we haven't talked about that in the line extension. if
Yeah,
it's been-
that'll be up to the select board as to what
We
that
have to-
policy is and what that connection fee. I was assuming that we'd do something similar to what we were promoting with the sewer and water project along Route 6, but that could change, that's up to.
Well, Fall River is $330 for water, right?
We don't have the permission to connect yet. We've got to figure that out. That's the next part of the.
And we were gonna add twice that for our own funding, certain
We
purposes.
talked about twice, yes. And I think it's important that we get as many people to connect
Yeah.
as soon as possible. So do we give them an incentive if they connect in the first year or two? These are things that, we gotta work our way through.
Well, I mean, I think they have an incentive, because the water main's gonna go in front of them, and
And the stub. will be
And they're
there.
not gonna pay a betterment for it, there'll be a stub sitting right in front of their property, so all these people with problems with their wells will be able to connect in relatively inexpensively. It's the betterment, you can't calculate the betterment until this thing is built, and you know how much grant
Well,
money
yeah,
you use,
no,
because you can't,
yes. No,
you can't
there's
use
no
the betterment
betterment,
against the
there's no
grant money.
betterment for the water line
But
extension.
I'm
Going back
talking
to
about
the hookup.
the phase one sewer and water,
Yeah.
which you're already trying to pull in at the economic development of one, but I'm more concerned about the residents that need the sewer there, the selectmen can vote not to charge them a betterment for sewer, and then I think they would vote for this project. Obviously they voted that they don't want their taxes raised for it, and if we can continue to pursue this with grant money, that's what we need to do.
Yep.
All right, so to finish off the first question, we still got to work out with Fall River, be able to connect. So how are we going to figure out how many houses will actually connect on the Macomb Loop, so we know what we're going for?
So we've sent a letter to Fall River about probably over a month ago.
Yeah.
We've got verbal commitment that it's not an issue. I do not have anything in writing from them as of yet.
I mean, one of the things that I saw from Fall River was, one of the reasons that they haven't need to increase their rate is because they need more customers. So I think they're looking forward to Westport expanding the water system that they've provided to us. This is the other thing that we gotta look at on sewer and water. We're not down the Cape where we have to build a sewer treatment plant. We're very fortunate that this is such a small project. It's not a massive project, it's a small project, that we only have to put pipe in the ground. We don't have to build a sewer treatment plant. That's what we need to consider, because when the DEP comes back knocking on the door again, they're not gonna make these people upgrade the system. They're gonna make the town of Westport provide them sewer. Roger, how do other towns deal with this dilemma so we're looking at this contract for water, we got
They get support from town
300,
meeting.
and we got 3.8 million for the water. So now we put this out to bid, right, and this grant money's coming in, how do you build that? Because,
For the water, you mean?
yes, so when say this is the bid that went out on this last bid, and they're gonna break ground in July, right? So we got a commitment from the state for 3.8 million. The contractor starts. We have to start paying the contractor when it really starts. So how do other towns finance this?
So if you're talking about how you actually cut a check to the contractor, it's one of two ways. It's either a reimbursement process, which is the way Chapter 90 works, or they set the money aside. But typically, by that I mean you send them the bill and they pay you, because that's the way, for example, the SRF works. We send them an invoice with all the paperwork, and then we get a check.
So the bid that went out for the sewer and water, on the bid, it said this project, which we were expecting was gonna be 34 million, and it came in 21 million. How was the wording on the funding for that project.
It's still, I think it's a good question, but I think the big takeaway is whether you borrow from general obligation bonds or you borrow from the Mass DEP State Revolving Fund, you're still borrowing money, and you need that authorization. So when people stand up and they say, hey, there's $4 billion kicking around out there in Massachusetts for free, and that's what they're doing on the Cape, they're borrowing money the same way.
But then you're telling the people that we want to raise your taxes to borrow this money.
Well,
So
because
if
it's
we
a debt
don't want to
service.
raise their taxes, because we want to build it with grant money, but we need to borrow money to even build it with grant money.
Right, but whether it's general obligation bonds or SRF, State Revolving Fund, is debt service associated with that.
Yeah.
So like with this water project, right, from what I understand, it's reimbursement. So we will pay the bills as they come in. The treasurer may have to do short-term borrowing, which we'd be responsible for, which should be minimal at most, because usually you get reimbursed fairly quickly. So we will pay the bills as they come in, and then we'll file for reimbursement. The state or the federal government will reimburse the town.
So we can do short-term borrowing for this water main, but we don't have to go to town meeting.
Based on grants,
The money's not,
because the money is there, the money's guaranteed.
And where are we gonna borrow this money from? Where's that, for a short-term money,
If they need to do short-term, so most times the town has enough cash in the bank where they can pay, you know, a $300,000-$400,000 bill on a monthly basis, and they don't have to borrow. There are occasions, depending on the time of the year, maybe around the 1st of July or when taxes haven't come in, where they do a short-term borrowing for a month or two to get them through that.
Yeah, tell them we have an investment banker who, we actually had a conference call 6 months ago with an investment banker, and we were talking about, you know, general obligation bonds, because we'd gotten, first round got denied by the State Revolving Fund. But they also mentioned bond anticipation notes or short-term borrowing, and
This is done all the time. There's
Yeah.
nothing new. We're not doing anything different from any other community. This is consistent with what every community does with this
Well,
type of
I
funding.
think on the public, so the way it got voted down, my opinion is, you were asking them to raise taxes to borrow money. If you tell them, listen, we don't want to raise taxes, we need to borrow money to do this from the state, DEP State Revolving Fund. If you borrow money from that fund, when do you pay that back?
well, there are two, I believe it's 2 installments per year for the State Revolving Fund, but you're paying back, it's like a mortgage on the house, you're paying back the principal and you're paying back the interest.
When do you stop paying that back?
In terms of when during construction,
Yes.
I think they let you start paying, I think as far as 6 months into the job, you can start paying back on that job.
So if you were doing it with betterments,
But I just want to tell you, but when you're working with the State Revolving Fund, if you do need bans on the project, on anticipation notes, the State Revolving Fund also gives you that at 0% interest. So, but then once you move into the regular payback on the borrowing, then you're paying the interest and the principal back on the 35 million. But what you just described, that process where you borrow, you're doing that now, depending on what's in the bank, Chapter 90.
yeah.
Chapter 90, you get a bill, you do the work, you get a bill from the contractor, you pay it, you send that information to the state, they reimburse you.
Because our big concern is that we can't afford this. So, I mean, I don't want to be like Stewart Hospital, everybody's gonna line up all their equipment because they didn't get paid and lay everybody off before Christmas. I don't want to be in that situation.
All right, so we're going over the water part. We're going to move on to the project 2, the first sewer project. Possible grant funding for section 1 of the sewer. We kind of touched base on that. Was there more to add on that one?
well, we do have the Keating money. I've always thought would go for the sewer project, and then we do have this application in for up to $5 million of a senatorial earmark. And if we could put if we got the $5 million and put the two together, I think we will have paid pretty much for the first section. Plus, but you got to go to Washington again. You got to get Chris Thatcher and Evan Gendro and you knock on doors, as you like to call it, down in the halls of Congress, huh?
We could do a Zoom with them, save some fuel.
No.
All right.
And I'm in D.C. from time to time, and I'm going to be in D.C. in late July, early August, so it might be a good time when they're having these subcommittee meetings where a bunch of guys and women get around a table and say, we've got this amount of money and we have these requests for earmarks. And poor little Westport has been knocking on our door endlessly. They need $5 million.
We were told, when we started this project that we need to get a shovel-ready project. And that's what we've done.
But we've got
Yeah.
it.
And we've expended a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Both state, federal, local funds, volunteers, getting this done.
Yeah.
And to say that, hey, we don't, my opinion, the vote at town meeting and the ballot was, we don't wanna raise taxes. It
Yeah.
wasn't a vote that we don't want this or we don't need it.
We just
because
don't wanna
they
pay
don't
for
know.
it.
No, they don't want
They
the
can't
impact.
afford
They
it.
don't want
Those
the
people
impact.
over there can't, not that they don't want it, Steve, they can't afford it.
They said they did not want the impact, Danny. They
They're-
talked about housing, they
Okay,
talked
all right,
about even the
we'll
McDonald's.
see how that was said, because I didn't hear that from them. That's not what I heard.
No, it was, there were certain people at town meeting who said, we put sewer in, Route 6 is gonna look like Fall River,
Yeah, that's
which
exactly what they said.
I don't agree with.
And then at our meetings, they even talked about it.
Well, that's your economic development part, so
Yeah.
when you wanna look at that, but
Yeah.
I'm more about the public health threat and the environmental threat. So the water main's gonna help with the public health threat.
Yes, that would help.
That's tremendous, and I'm extremely happy that that's happened.
Yep.
However, it's not gonna do anything about the environmental
Yeah,
problem on the report that I read, that's Mass Highway. So this is also, it's like, we're not even talking to Mass Highway that's looking forward, but when you go down Route 6 and you look at what's in the wells going down Mass Highway, the groundwater's contaminated, it's got salt, it's got PFAS, it's migrating into the aquifer. So to say that, we're gonna run water main down there, and the water main, it's going to, Jim, where'd it make it to? It made it to
From the Housing Authority to
Street.
Washington Street.
Yep.
and so why didn't it go all the way to Union? Because it's not much further to go to Union, right?
If we get more money, we can go to
Did
Union.
we ask, did we tell them we had a need to go all the way to Union? Did we tell them we had a sewer and water design on Route 6? Did we
So-
tell them that when you asked for that?
So we told them, and I think we got more money than I think any other community in the state. We were at $3.2 million, we pushed for more, we got up to 3.7, and then eventually $4 million. So yes, we
All right.
couldn't have pushed any harder.
So we got 4 million, right? We got 4 million there.
Yes.
We got another million, and then we got possibly 5 million. Let's add that all up. What's that right now?
9 million. 5 is 9.
9 million, okay? So, and then we got a little bit of ARPA money left. How much is that? Close to another million. We get that extra chapter
650
90.
Between the Chapter 90 and the 650, about almost $1 million.
So we got 10
Which
million.
we're kind of dedicating towards this
We
water
got
project.
10 million, we didn't ask for anything for sewer, really, well, 6 of it was. We had a contract that went out to bid, and it was estimated it was gonna be 34 million. It came in at 21 million. So, we got a bid we got almost half the money right now, and then we're gonna say,
well,
we're not moving forward with this.
We'll get this water extension out to
Yeah,
bid.
but you know what the
We'll
problem
get
with
the
doing the water
base bid and-
first is,
and,
Maury?
Yeah, but Manny, what do we do? Not
got
do
the
the
money.
water? Do you
No,
want,
no, I'm not
it's,
saying not do the
it's
water.
your
I'm saying-
decision to make as a select board member. If you don't
And
want
I
to do the
will vote
water,
in favor.
vote not to
and
do
I
it.
will vote in favor of the water, but
All
I
right,
don't wanna
then
vote
we're
in
done.
favor of not doing the sewer project.
Yeah, I don't think
Well, so
anybody's
you-
voting
so you
against the
wanna-
sewer except the town voted
So,
against
hey,
it.
let's see what this bid comes in, because we got a bid right now that we'll probably never, ever
I
duplicate that bid
agree.
again.
I agree.
And now you're gonna put water in before you put sewer.
Yes,
No,
Okay.
we're extending water.
And that's gonna make the
Extending
cost
water.
of sewer go up more too.
right.
Well,
So then
but-
when
but I
the
don't
DEP
think
knocks
that-
on the door and says, hey, Westport, you need to put this sewer in,
But we
it's
don't-
gonna cost us more money.
But we don't have a
Of
choice.
course.
We-
of
That's what
course.
Bob said at town meeting.
We told the town meeting that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I stood up and made the presentation. And I read those slides,
Yeah.
and I looked out in the audience, and I knew the votes weren't there. And I disagree with Maury's analysis because there were, from South End precincts, there were 55% of the people, from the North End was 45% of the people, therefore the South End killed it. I disagree with that. When you look at the ballot, the South End voted that was not gonna get the sewer, the South End voted more than the North End. And when I saw, there is an active group of people, and they have every right to voice their opinions, they have every right to come to town meeting and vote, and they have every right to disagree with what I said. I'm not offended by any of that. But that group of people were very active, and it's, you know, and I think it's a, you know, they're active on the, you know, on the internet and the wide web and all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, and it was, and they clearly didn't buy the environmental argument, the economic argument, and I disagree with that, because we're definitely gonna be stuck with the obligation to clean up the river. There's no way the town can dodge that. And we're definitely gonna be stuck with more PFAS regulations, because
It's recognized now.
July 3rd, you know, the pending regulations then kick in, the federal regulations then kick in, and PFAS is a hazardous substance. Once you have a hazardous substance, you know, if you have a public well, people are definitely gonna require you to test a public well. So, you know, and I looked out and nobody bought those arguments. And I thought, in a way, it's a real shame that if I look at, there was an important message in the town meeting, and it's a message we hear every town meeting. And that's at the front end of the message is, we have a structural deficit. We're always gonna be behind about, our costs are increasing more than we can generate revenues. We have a structural deficit, and we're in this doom spiral of increasing costs, and we can't tax our way out of it, because we're trapped behind Prop 2.5. And so, you know, how does that work? Well, you know, somebody buys a $650,000 house on the river, and they tear down a very modest 2-bedroom house, and they build a $2.3 million house. You know, and that's kind of where we're going. So what does that mean? Well, our assessed values keep growing and going and going. That is, the town gets richer and richer, and we said, well, okay, well, the state says go tax yourself, because you're a wealthy town. Look, you're growing wealthier. And it leaves behind people who aren't wealthy. And, you know, and my sense of equity is, we have to look out for the people who aren't wealthy. And I thought the sewer and water is aimed largely at those people. And, you know, the idea that we're in the structural deficit, we're gonna have the same preamble in the town meeting next year. And isn't it worth a shot? Isn't it worth it? Get off your ass and take a shot at doing something different. If you think you got the offshore wind, and people are gathering to oppose that, but if you just think about, what are the forces that are going on? You know, so you got regulation, you got that stuff on the negative side, but on the positive side, you got 7 leases sitting out there south of Mountain Vineyard. You know, the alternate routes are, we could come up 88, we could come up the Sunconet River, we could swing around Lock Island and land at New London, Connecticut, and the Bureau of Offshore Management came and did a public meeting. They showed us these routes and everything. You think, well, oh gee, you know, if you had 1,000 megawatts of green energy coming ashore here someplace, you know, whether it's in Somerset or here, but generally running into the grid coming out of Brayton Point, is that likely to change things? Are people who need cheap energy likely to start looking for places where the cheap energy exists? And you think, yeah, that's a possibility. Well, if it's a possibility, why don't you work towards making yourself attractive to that possibility? And, and we didn't even dare bring the zoning forward.
That was another thing that scared them, so, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, we didn't even dare bring the, because we thought that would jinx the sewer project.
Right.
And to think, you know, that's a shot that we ought to take. And to me, that the town not being proactive, not position itself for at least the possibility. The zoning doesn't cost you anything. You know, the zoning doesn't cost taxpayers anything, doesn't cost anybody anything. You just vote for it, and it's words on a piece of paper. Then either something happens or nothing happens. But it doesn't cost you anything to take that shot. And you know, and I think, for me, the big loss in the sewer is, the big loss in town meeting is the sense that we're not up to taking the shot. And, you know, you look at, you know, I sort of, I like the words of, you know, the great one, Wayne Gretzky, and he said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Can I ask you a question? I did hear you say at the town meeting that the DEP's up the Cape right now,
Yeah.
and they'll be coming back down this way. And what do you think the analysis is gonna be with that? Do you think they're gonna force us to do the trunk line?
What they've done to the Cape is, they've done what their regulations say, which the first shot is town adopt a regulation that requires every single person to build then, whenever it's adopted, a state-of-the-art denitrification system on every septic system. That's what it says. And if you choose not to do that, that is, if the town chooses not to adopt that regulation, then it has to enter into a consent agreement with DEP to build equivalent protection, water and sewer systems to take the nitrogen out.
Right.
And so, and what the Cape is doing, they looked at, well, what does it cost citizens if everybody has to reach in their pocket for 40 grand? Or what does it cost them if we extend the sewer? Everybody is choosing to extend the sewers.
Well, what you just said there is pretty much a mouthful, because being an elected official on a board in this town, you're a servant of the people. And so in a case like this, you guys all spent time working on the trunk line, say for instance, okay, you put the trunk line in place. But when the DEP comes down, like you just said, you're either gonna be upgrading septic systems, or you're gonna have something going on here. So you gotta move forward with that contract one, right? The waters are musted, right? I mean, that's just a musted, you know? And I would say just to protect, you know, sometimes folks, you offer them something new, they eject it at first, but they're not totally understandable to the consequences that they're going to be facing by ejecting it. And so after I spoke to Roderick's office, he kind of explained that a little bit. His secretary explained that to me a little bit, you know. There was some misunderstandings and this and that all takes place. I understand everybody doesn't want to spend money. You know, there could be we could be in a recession now, for instance, you know. But this board here did its job. Everyone, you did the engineering work down for the trunk line, right? You represented the citizens in the best possible way you could. At this point here, at the speed we're going at it, yes, the DEP is going to come into town. And so you couldn't have blamed any of you officials. You did your job. And so just so everybody at home understands this, yes, you can eject the sewer system, but it looks like it's still gonna cost money. Like, there's environmental problems, they have to be addressed, and that's really where we're all at. Thank you.
And thanks to the citizens that came forward too, and it took a lot of guts to put your name out there that you have problems with your water and your septic. Did you have something to add? Oh, I thought you had your hand up, Marie. Go ahead, Rainey.
Bernie LaChapelle from Meadowbrook Lane. So I was at the town meeting, and I didn't speak, but I'm not going to repeat everything we just mentioned here. But to me, that we went into town meeting, and I don't want to sound like Monday morning quarterbacks. That's the last thing in the world I want to sound like. But we went into town meeting, and there was certainly a sense that this was not going to pass. And being somebody that was heavily involved in the new Diamond Vocational School, there was a lot of work done to educate and explain what it's going to take to do a school in all 4 towns. And Westport being the last town, and that's where I came in to do my part in the town and try to help that pass. And I was just one person of many, but it passed. But there was a lot of education that took place, a lot of communication explaining more of the reasons. I think people that come to town hall, came to the town meeting, you have the internet, the social media pieces that are really built up quite a gathering of being against the article. I don't think we had a really strong sense of that kind of social media aspect for it. And knowing that it's going to take maybe 500 voters to maybe have this pass, it takes a committee, more than just this meetings here, to really go around and educate the right people, the people that are impacted, that really are not going to be able to see this come through if you're relying on a large team that doesn't want it, because they're the only ones that are really working together to defeat it. So I think it's an education thing, if that option.
So let me just ask you, we put copious amounts of written material on the town website, but people don't read, I guess.
Well, you did a flash of lights.
We did have 2 meetings specifically in the North End, one at the Macklemore School and one at the new high school, and a lot of people came. But did they listen? And did they listen to the presentation we made at town meeting? Or maybe their minds were already made up by the time they got to town meeting. So both those efforts failed. The copious amount of information on the town website brought presentations to the North End twice. So you're suggesting we lost the battle on social media? Because I know there was a lot of social media going on, and belatedly we sort of decided to do it, but it was too late. But
I was not
really been proactive in going after these people who were basically misinforming a lot of people. They were, every time I would get on Facebook, for example, I am a Facebook member, and I saw some of the comments on Facebook, and many of them are wrong, but I didn't refute them. But you're saying maybe we should have a proactive effort on Facebook and other social media outlets to fight.
Let me continue.
Is that what you're saying?
Let me continue, because you interrupted me and I listened to you.
No, I raised my hand and you
All right,
recognized.
okay.
Whatever, I was interested to hear what you got to say,
Okay.
okay? I was not here through the winter months, so I don't know those meetings, I didn't attend those meetings.
Yeah.
But, relying on the town website as your model for reaching the people that we need to reach is not sufficient. If you are running for selectman and put your name on the website of the town hall and expect to win your election, it's not going to happen. You're running for any office, you need to reach a lot of people, you need to shake some hands, you need to knock on some doors, you need to have a lot of subcommittees going on for such an important project. Now, that's why I don't want to sound like a Monday morning quarterback. But I do think that if this is something that is really important for us to do, it takes a lot different approach, not have those meetings at the Macklemore School or whatever. I think that's still part of it. But you're missing what it really takes to get elected. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get elected to put a water and sewer in. And education, because I was at that town hall meeting and I heard some of the people that complained when the water and sewer was coming up Route 6 that have nothing to do with this, that said the same words back then. And if we didn't follow through with education, water, sewer, there would have been serious problems, and my dad was one of them. So I think it's just, there was a lot of focus, because, and other people have said, a lot of focus to make this happen. But there's a whole different avenue we missed. And and the light is shining right now. And you said, you've made the comment. It takes a good number of people, and it takes dollars. And I know for Diamond, we've reached out and were able to collect funds and hired somebody specifically to focus on this. And that's this focus on this, meaning the Diamond Vocational School change. And we were successful. Doesn't mean this would be successful, but I think we missed that opportunity, and I don't know if there's another opportunity, but I think if it is, I'd like to be involved to try to get work on that education and work with any committees, because you need 50 people working in different areas, having responsibility for different areas, and really getting the information, and it'll pass. That's my opinion.
Okay. Randy, don't forget, you lost the first time in vote, didn't we? Didn't we vote it down the first time?
In town, the borrowing.
Then you guys got,
Right, until it was, everything came together and organized what we had to do. Okay.
All right. You got anything else to add on that?
What is
I
his last
just
name?
wanted to.
LaChapelle.
LaChapelle.
Chairman, I just wanted to comment. I agree, our outreach and education was inadequate to do the job. And to a sense, we kept talking to ourselves, thinking that we were making progress. So that the people who showed up in this room were in favor of the sewer, they all, supported it. And we talked to like voters, we talked to the environmental group, the Buzzards Bay Coalition, the water resources, we tried to pull those votes together. But essentially we were talking to, really to ourselves with the outreach and the education clearly wasn't anywhere near necessary to change enough votes, and we also didn't count our votes. So one of the things that you need to do is, do you have 500 votes? We didn't have any idea whether we had 500 votes. And good elections know how many votes I got for.
We looked into,
No, just one more thing.
Okay.
I like to, my colleagues put a lot of effort into this, and I appreciate all your efforts, Bob, and I agree with you 100%. And my feeling is, of course, we have to move forward with the water. But my other feeling is on the education, like Granny's just come up with, well, what I've seen after the vote is, this project's been defeated. The project's not defeated. How we were gonna build it was defeated, on borrowing money. So we don't want the public to think, that was the first thing on social media about the sewer, when they went out and started doing the notice of intent went out for it. Well, we thought we'd stop this. No, again, they're not educated. They don't understand what's happening. And the reason why the water main's going down. So we gotta, like Maury, some of the, you're saying we're gonna disband the Infrastructure Oversight Committee and combine it with economic development. I don't know, I've been on the Economic Development Committee with you for like 4 years, and what have we done?
well, that's
What has
because,
this committee
that's
done?
because
So I don't think we want to
infrastructure
expand this kid.
took the biggest project from economic development, and we ended up doing the farmer's market on economic development. But,
Well, it's not our job to disband ourselves, and we were informed by the selectmen, and the selectmen, if the selectmen wants us to keep advising them,
Well, we have to discuss.
that's our job.
Well, we have to discuss that, Bob, though. Do you want to keep putting the effort you've been putting in? I mean, you took it, like Robbie, you took a hell of an emotional beating on this thing. Some people might be tired with it. If we don't have the core group, then yeah, we gotta think about moving on. Jim's working day and night. We just had a meeting before this after work. We got enough to keep Roger going busy though, right?
This man just got elected for another 5 years.
I know, so that's what I mean. And he's working in Boston or wherever
And
he's
he
working.
doesn't get, he volunteers.
I just came directly from a meeting in Boston.
So that's what I mean. First, that's why he's got it on the agenda. We've got to first discuss it, see if we want to go forward, if everybody's got the energy to keep working on it. And yes, economic development can take it over. This was formed because of the big push. Try to get things rolling. I agree. I also agree with Rainey, by the way. To try to get it while the money was there, we had to kind of reach out with opera money. Then we had deadlines of like June, so we had to throw it on a ballot. So it was a little hectic. But we were trying to do what we could do to get the funds while we could. All right.
Yeah, Steve, I just want to make a comment.
I'm sorry,
I did
yeah.
put that, that's the fourth item on
Right, we discussed.
the agenda, but I just put it on there for the simple reason that we're all having a one-year appointment.
It expires in
And
June.
we didn't get elected for 5 years. We're all on one-year appointments. And so the Board of Selectmen has to decide sometime in June as to whether to repopulate the Infrastructure and Oversight Committee.
Probably next meeting.
I think we heard a
Probably next
volunteer.
meeting, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Did you
Maybe he's a-
volunteer, Rainey?
Yeah.
What's that?
We just volunteered you to get on the committee. That'll teach you to stand up.
I'm in the committee for summer.
Well, maybe we can,
He goes
you
away
know,
for the winter.
we can't have a 50-member committee, but we can have,
Well, we
we've
don't
got
know
8
what,
now, and we can
Joe and
definitely
Chris-
expand it.
Chris seems to be thinning out too, so I don't know.
Well,
what's up.
Chris Thrasher, who is the FinCom representative, told me this afternoon he's getting off of FinCom, but he would like to be a member here of infrastructure or economic development, whatever, as it goes forward. And also Evan Gendro is very, very interested. The two guys who went
Like I
to
say, he doesn't have to be a member to work for us.
Again, Rainey LaChapelle, you're talking about, the committee, like I just said, and said, oh, you want to get involved in a committee. When I was working with, we say Diamond, but it wasn't working for Diamond. It was a separate organization.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't work for Diamond, we wouldn't be able to get the money the way we got the money. So it's got to be an ad hoc group
Yeah.
that is in working on this, not a town meeting, a town group, official town
Yeah.
meeting.
We can't ask you for money, but you can, so that's good, yeah, sounds good.
That's very important to keep in mind.
It is. All right, I appreciate it. All right, let's keep,
Steve, one more thing.
Go ahead, man.
I mean, so, again, we got this grant money for the water.
yes, sir.
What is wrong with looking at somebody to look for grants for the sewer and say, we got this project? I mean, how are we gonna move forward with water? Are we redesigning the water going down the sewer plant? Or are we gonna use the design that we have for the sewer water?
It's basically the design that we have.
I mean, like, you had said something, we're worried about, a smaller contract like this, what type of bid is it gonna come on this? We're gonna have some issues. I mean, we got a good bid, I didn't look at the whole bid with the low bidder for the whole project. I don't know, those 3 bidders went after this project aggressively. And I don't know, can we look at him and say, hey, are you interested in doing this water under that bid? And maybe we don't have to go out to bid, and we can get this going that way.
I think it has to, right, because of the money.
Legally, it's,
Yeah.
we
We didn't a la carte it, right?
No, legally, there's a process we have to go through with bid,
Yeah.
and it's onerous and.
Yeah, because there might be people that are only interested in the water.
This is under 30B law, this type of bidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's 30B, it cannot exceed 10% of the bid.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it moving. Should the town proceed with the taking of all the pump station easements? Hardman?
It's me, right? So right now we have the first 2 pump stations, we have the survey plans, we have the easement plans, and they have been appraised. We've met with the owners on those. I spoke to one yesterday, and I spoke to a representative of the other location today. They're not opposed to it. I wouldn't say they've said yes completely. I think they're concerned about possible betterment fees, especially, one business is already tied into the sewer. And now if we go with betterments, which is a separate issue from the takings, but if we go with betterments.
Well, just so the public knows, why don't we explain? Both of the first 2 are both before the 88 overpass.
Yeah.
It's LaFrance Hospitality
Yeah.
and Meatworks.
And Meatworks, that's correct.
Just so everybody's.
So those 2 are pretty much ready to go, right? We've done the plans, we have the appraisals. The other 2, we have the preliminary, we have the design because we went out to bid of the location, but I don't have a survey plan yet. They would have to do the survey plans, and we'd have to go out for the appraisals. The first two, we have money with ARPA. They've approved the application with Bristol County to pay for the takings. The second two, we don't have money yet for that. So we would need money to do those second takings. I don't say there's opposition to the second two, but they don't seem as favorable as the first two. I think they're not opposed to it completely, but they didn't seem as.
More negotiations are needed.
How much did the appraisal come back for meat works?
I want to say between 14 and 17,000.
Gotcha. Because I did speak to Lori, she's in favor of the third one,
Yeah, the other one was 34, I think, so.
We have the money.
Yeah, I don't know, Lori didn't agree yet though, did she?
She did not agree yet, no.
She's not on record yet. That's the toughest zone to get it
I think
past.
she would be okay with it, but the other thing, it's one thing when the sewer is, how close is the sewer to getting to that property at this point, right? Is it 6 months away, is it a year away, is it 5 years away? The further away it is, the more difficult it is to justify a taking. We might still be able to do it, and I'm okay either way, we just need to go ahead.
But I would say, like Bobby said, and like I was saying before, about saying no to something that you really regret afterwards. The right way to do this thing is to protect yourselves, is rather it makes it there or it doesn't make it there. I would say secure the 4 locations. Just wait in case the DEP comes to town, starts ordering us around, you've done your job. Like you say, is it year, 5, 6 years away from being possibly a great possibility? I think you could be right there. But in reality, I would say just to protect yourself and to protect the citizens, I would say secure the 4 locations.
And inspect the investment in this design. I mean, that's the whole reason why we didn't move the pump station at Carlos's. We already had the design, it was
I
designed.
don't think he agreed either, did he? The last one didn't agree.
Roger, can you explain to the public how the takings of easements for the sewer work?
So there's 2 ways you can take it, as what they refer to sometimes as a friendly taking. So you work with the resident or the property owner, and they agree to a price, or you can take it in a non-friendly way, and then that's referred to sometimes as pro tanto, which means you come up with, you have an easement, you get an assessment, you assess a value, and you take the property, you pay the property owner, but that does not preclude the property owner from seeking damages. So post facto, if you hand somebody $17,000, they decide they want to hire a lawyer, they can come back and seek additional damages because they disagree with the value.
That's where our headaches are, Robbie.
But that's eminent domain.
They can't argue about the taking.
Right.
The taking is done.
We can fight over the money.
They can argue about their just compensation, and they have 3 years to do that.
And it doesn't mean, like, when you take it today, you can start building it today. They have that recourse.
If you take it today, when the order of taking is filed, the town owns it. And the next week, you can start digging, even if the owner disagrees with the value. The value is set, they're entitled, under the Constitution for the protection from search and seizure, and they're entitled to, if there is a proper public purpose, the town or the state or the federal government can take your land, but you're entitled to just compensation for that action. So that's what gets argued in court.
And we're not looking, these are easements, and we're not looking to take their land, we're looking to locate the pump station at it.
And these
We're
properties,
taking an easement.
these easements don't really interfere with the people's businesses.
Well, 3 Laura's does, that's right. I mean, I don't have any problem with the first 2, that's for sure. It was the other 2 that was concerned for me.
Well, when we're talking about a friendly taking, I mean, I still believe this is a friendly taking. We designed the sewer there. I mean, a couple of them, like when Carlos came to me, I'm like, he's like, well, nobody said anything to me. I said, well, by the time I find out, I assume somebody said something to you because we have a whole design there. And the design is so forward that the utility plan from whether it was Eversource or the grid over there was already complete, which that's something that takes quite a bit of time to do. So at this point, there was probably more resources expended into the design of that pump station than what the easement is even worth. And to try to move it to another location, so it's like we have no alternative to do it that way. And I don't think any of those people are, you know, will they file an appeal to get more? I mean, they might.
But how much more could they get? I mean, you send an appraiser out to his site, right? You're supposed to know his business. And on the other hand, you know, okay, I parked the car there, I can't park the car there no more. And but somewhere along the line, this process has been played out many, many times before. And so there's an outcome on a number, and there's an income of a number. When you send the appraiser out, he's the income of the number. This case, and what we're all going through, has been done 1,000 times before. And so the rough draft on just about everything should be available. So we should go the inside.
So, Steve, just to add to that, moving forward, we're looking to take 2 pump stations right now.
Yep.
So all we're looking to do is ask the selectmen to vote to do that. So, because we have a need to do the first 2 pump stations.
Correct.
So my feeling is, okay, so let's ask the selectmen to vote for all 4 pump stations. Doesn't mean we take all.
I think we need to concentrate on 1 and 2 and try to get the
Well, I
project
think we need to
done.
concentrate on
Okay,
phase
well,
1.
it's discussion.
So I would like to make a motion that we support the taking of the first 2 pump stations.
Anybody else second that?
I'd like to make an amendment to that motion, that we,
All right, let me second it first. Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to
You're
amend
gonna
the
second it?
motion,
Yes.
that we take all 4 pump stations,
That's not an amendment, that's a whole different motion.
to add the 2 second pump stations to it.
Just in case DEP comes to town.
Doesn't matter, Robbie, the DP can have them do, they're not gonna force us to bring septic to people's properties, they've gotta come up with a plan. And we've been working on the TDM loads for, I think, like 2016, we've been having meetings on TMDL, and nobody really cares.
Oh, it goes back to 2010,
Oh, yeah.
2011, 2012.
Yeah, well, I remember meetings like 8 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And nobody's doing anything. All right, well, if not, just vote it down. Right now, the motion is for the first 2 stations, meaning White's, France Hospitality, and Meatworks. Any other discussion on it? All in favor? Aye. 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so we're unanimous. All right.
Thank you.
All right, at least we can, so, do you understand what's going on, Rainey? The section where your business is located up to 88 is where, right now, we're focusing on those 2 pump stations to try to acquire the land, our next step. So it gives you more tools to work with. So now you got the plan, you got grants, we hope to acquire the property, Jim will be working on it. Everything's in place, and now we just gotta get anybody to try to get it to agree with it. That should be the easiest sell section, to 88. After that's when you've got Hebert Terrace, as you know, across the street, and a few houses on board. So it should be a lot easier to sell because they're not gonna have any high hits unless they wanna tie in. It's the businesses that are gonna go,
But that funding we already have the money for that, correct, though?
a lot of it, like Manny said, if we get that other 5 mil, then you're looking good. You could probably do it without a town meeting vote if you got 10 mil.
Exactly.
So we'll just keep working at it, but you guys have to keep the wheel. It sounds like we're gonna keep this committee going, you gotta keep the wheels spinning, and we need pro people to stand up if we gotta go to town meeting again. Now easements, we're good without going to town meeting, if they're friendly, I think, right?
The select board can take the easements for sewer.
We don't have to go to town
You
meeting.
don't have to go to town meeting.
Can we get the mass grant works put out? We're in that month now.
We don't have a partner, so we didn't file on June 1st. But the potential partner, and it's Bob Carrig of Bristol Pacific. He owns 2 Edgewater apartments. He bought the old transportation building. He wants to build a 3rd Edgewater apartment. He has not got the septic capacity. In fact, his septic system's 30 or 40 years old, and to replace it's a couple $100,000.
Yep, but.
So
but
he
the
wants.
Money, but not to interrupt you, but the money for the project you're discussing, we already have that.
No, well, so the estimate was, what, 7 million for the first phase. If we get the 5 million from Markey, we got 6. My point about the Mass Works is that you can get a grant for up to 2 million, and then you can basically finance that first pump station on the La France parking lot and get it up to Borden Street, and then down Borden Street with Mass Works grant money. And it's not just the apartment that he wants, but he wants an 8,000 square foot office building as well.
But if we went ahead, I think you guys just.
Hang on one second, Robbie.
Yeah.
Val, is that okay if he talks from there? Can people hear him?
Well, if it's anything like, the probably should go on.
All right, I just want to make sure everybody can hear the discussion, that's all.
Yeah, I know we just went ahead and approved the 2 pump stations,
Yes.
but how do we go about?
So we approve the easements to take,
Easements.
well, to
Yeah.
recommend to the select board that they take the 2
Right.
easements.
Yep, but how do we go about getting grants for the second half of it, the other 2 pump stations, when we haven't made a move on the pump stations?
Well, I would suggest once we get things rocking and rolling, we show a commitment is when we're more apt to get grant money. Right now, when the people just, would you be anxious to give people money if the people just said they don't want it? We need to show, yeah, you
Well,
gotta
but everybody told you that they didn't want it, don't live along that strip. And that's what I was
Well,
referring
they
to
want a
before.
script. You were right there when the lady told us, told you to your face she didn't want it.
No, I didn't go to town meeting, I was watching at
I'm
home
sorry,
on TV.
excuse me, I mean at our forum, at the Macumber. The people from Route 6 who was gathered with us after the meeting saying they didn't want it. Remember, they talked about the government?
Yeah, but how many people was that? Because when we were here, this room was filled up with all Route
Right.
6 people, they were all in favor of it.
Robbie, it makes sense, the businesses want it.
Yeah.
Or people that gonna gain money
Yep.
from the.
Would the town be cleaner with it or without it? The town would be a cleaner
Absolutely.
town with it.
It would be clean with it. yes.
Right, and so that's really what we're out to do, you know?
Right.
Rather, this one likes the TV show, the other one doesn't like it. All I mean to say is we should have secured the 4 of them, and that gives the people the opportunity to educate them as we're going along here.
I got you,
That's what I'm saying.
I got you. All right, let's move on to our next point of business. Well, the future of the infrastructure committee, I mean, does everybody wish to stay on? Do we want to keep it? I mean, we touched base on it.
I would continue, Mr. Chairman.
All right, well, the hardest working people, Maury, you want to keep it going?
I will work on this committee or on the economic development. It's the same work. I will do it, and it depends on the committee.
All right, well, I'm picking on him, but Maury's taking all these notes, and it is a lot of work. And Bob presented at town meeting, he'd done a hell of a lot of work. He's one of the ones that got this off the ground. So if these two didn't want to stay committed, you know.
No, I'm committed. I'm committed either on this committee. I've been on economic development for 20 years. I'm not going to get off on
All
the
right,
21st meeting.
me and you or I need to send Jim and Paula an email. Who wishes to stay on? Because we've got to get
I do.
reappointed. Raise your hand so I know who to put in. Jerry, you gonna think about it? All right, you're good. Manny,
Are you
make the
on?
decision, so. Okay,
Wait a
so
minute, I'm
everybody
trying
wants
to-
to be reappointed. Just put everyone.
I'm trying to,
We need to find out on Joe. Can
is
you do that
Manny
for
on
us?
board?
Manny raised his hand. Yeah, he's a selectman. He decides either way, so. Both of us.
So we have everybody,
Everybody raise their hand.
and you're going to be on it?
Yeah.
Even if you're elected to the...
We don't talk about that in the public, neither one of us are
Okay,
supposed to talk
okay.
about that stuff.
Okay.
So anyways, we need to find out on Mr. Rio, Mr. Thrasher.
Well,
If
Thrasher,
Mr. Thrasher is the FinCom rep and he does not need to stay on, then we need to figure out if we're gonna do
He-
more at large.
he's getting off FinCom, but he wants to stay on this committee.
I
So
understand that,
he
but
can-
if we're down as a FinCom rep,
Yes.
they have first opportunity. Some committees sometimes will leave somebody on to
Well,
represent.
and there's Chris Thatcher,
That's what we're talking about.
and also
Joe
Evan
Rio.
Gendro. Both of them would like to be on this committee.
I understand, but Mr. Rio still has an opportunity to, Manny will contact him and let us know.
Well, then let's expand from 8 to 10.
We
I
can
think
discuss it.
we need 50 people,
We-
Mr. LaChapelle said.
Those are guys we need to help raise money. So
Okay.
we don't want them on the
That's-
committee.
Okay, okay.
That's a different group of
What I
people.
said, it's different.
You guys need to do the signs, and you can't do that if you're on a committee, I don't believe. It's
Well, we actually
the
did.
rules that are out there.
I
I don't
Let's
know
not
nothing
talk
about
about
that. Okay, moving on. Any other public comments? We need to discuss we're gonna need a meeting in July, or do we wanna wait and see
Or
what
do
we
you
got?
want to, do you want to meet again in June?
Or
Or
not this
Okay.
month. We don't have anything yet until,
So when is the Board of Selectmen Select Board going to appoint new members to the IOC?
it'll be within this month, because it's the next.
It'll be as of July 1st.
Yeah,
It'll
so
happen after July 1st?
Well, they'll appoint them at the next meeting, and it'll be effective July 1st.
Right, so everybody should get their paperwork in as soon as possible.
Okay, you can send us an email, we'll decide, because in the
Yeah.
summertime, it's usually tougher. We'll make sure there's an agenda worth discussing.
So we have to send an email to Paula, basically, Paula Brown, the
Yes.
confidential.
Tell Paula,
clerk.
everybody here wishes to be reappointed, and you're gonna find out on the other two. Before you,
Okay, I'm
before
gonna-
you email her the list, find out on the other two, please.
Okay.
So do we each individually have to send it? or-
No,
No, no.
I'm gonna
Jim's
send-
here, Manny's here, I'm here. we
I'll
all do
send,
it.
I'll send a email to Paula for all 6 of us.
Generally, Jerry, if it's a committee that there wasn't at least, us three involved, we're aware that you wanna stay on, so, okay?
Now, I can call Joe Rio. I can
Whoever
call
does
him.
it, we just
Yeah.
need to know,
He just doesn't do email.
okay?
Oh, I think he does now, I think he's
He's got his daughter's email?
he's got an iPhone.
All right, we're gonna find out that. Any other comments from the public?
Yeah, I got
Oh,
one.
I'm gonna let you finish.
If you feel everything,
Hang on one second, Robbie. Go ahead.
I had a question, Mr. Chairman. Do you have enough money to have
Roger
Roger
stay.
continue so that you're not left alone to manage this?
Yes, I think so. We're working on it. I don't, yeah, we'll check. There'll be enough
I
money
think
in,
we had something else come through that we could possibly use for that, no?
yes.
Well, we hope the
We
Roger's rates
appreciate
didn't go over. Hey, it's a new fiscal year, his rates might.
Well, we
Yeah,
have,
I'd just like to say,
we still have 350 from Roderick's money, don't we? If you spend 170 of that, we should still have 170.
Okay. I need you to talk this much at town meeting, Go ahead, go ahead.
well, I knew we weren't getting $10
All right.
at town meeting, so I was better off at the pizza parlor. But okay, make a long story cut short. My father had been, and my grandfather, and the whole family's been in Westport for many, many years. And if you guys ever feel exhausted, I just want to let you know, my father used to call Route 6 the final frontier.
Oh, boy.
So that is what you guys are working on.
Thank you.
The final frontier.
We appreciate it. All right, anything else to add? Anybody else have anything else? All right, so we'll contact you once once he finds out, and we'll let you know on being reappointed, and we'll find out who's gonna be on the committee, okay?
Okay.
Motion adjourned?
But you two Board of Select members can consider
I move that we-
expanding from 8 to 10, right?
We will discuss it if needed.
Okay.
Bob made the motion to adjourn. Is there a
Second.
second?
Who did?
Second by Manny. So Bob made the motion to adjourn, seconded by Manny. All set? All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Anybody against?